Thanks for tuning into Howe's Things, a podcast and radio show from the David A. Howe Public Library, recorded right here in Wellsville, New York. I'm Nick Gunning, and today we're going to be talking Clive Cussler, and there's nobody better to talk to Clive Cussler about than my old friend Steve Rudd. Steve, welcome.
Hello, I am very happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Now, I remember a conversation we had a while ago where you said that you had a big box of Clive Cussler books and you sold them all. And I was like, he just died like last week. And you were like, what?
Yes.
No.
That conversation did happen. I was going to say, I probably don't remember this conversation, but that one still is like...
Yeah, it stings.
It stings. Yeah,
it stings.
The salt's still I can feel the grinding of the salt in that wound. Yeah,
makes
that
sense.
one...
Probably why that dude was so eager to buy him off you.
I know. It's funny, too.
Nostalgia.
Like, I was like, man, I wonder if he was just like, yeah, it's crazy he died too. But like,
yeah.
No, this happened just before. Like, just before.
Missed it.
Yeah.
Crazy. No, but it really does make sense to have you on this episode because, like, I've known the name Clive Cussler for a long. I mean, I've worked in libraries for 20 years now, so like I knew Clive Cussler. But I think the first time I ever gave any thought to Clive Cussler was back in the day when you and I were college roommates hanging out in a cabin. Because I know that you love the movie Sahara.
Oh, yeah.
And even then, I feel like you had Clive Cussler paperbacks kicking around the cabin. Am I wrong?
I think I probably did.
Yeah.
I know I had a really old version of Pacific Vortex that I picked up. And that was laying around, I know. And I may have had Sahara, and I don't know, like...
Well, there's so many.
Yeah,
we'll get into it, but there's like 80.
It's hard to. Yeah.
So crazy. Yeah. So I don't know. Whenever I think Clive Cussler, like you just come to mind. I just picture your cherubic little face when I think of Clive Cussler. So right now at the library, we're in the midst of our summer reading program. It's Oceans of Possibilities is our theme, and our book club for this month was The Chase by Clive Cussler. So we're going to be talking about The Chase and Clive Cussler in general, but I feel like The Chase is a bit of an outlier because it's part of the Isaac Bell series and not the Dirk Pitt series, which is what people usually think of. When they think of Cussler, they're thinking of a Dirk Pitt. So we'll get into all of that later. But before we do, let's open up the books and see where our bookmarks are at.
Yeah, let's do it.
What are you reading these days?
So after The Chase, I got an alert almost to the day. Actually, I think it was. I finished it in the morning, and then that afternoon, while I was still at work, I got an alert from Hoopla that a title that I had requested was available for audiobook, and it's Thrawn Ascendancy by Timothy Zahn. So it's the first time. I was just like, whoa, when did I request this? And it was like back in it was like 8 months ago.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. Yeah.
So I started that, and it's, I'm going to give it a little bit more.
I did read Thrawn Ascendancy. I read it with some friends for a book club, and yeah, it just left me so cold. Like, I just was like, I do not care about this.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you've been listening to this podcast, you probably know this already, but the Thrawn trilogy back in the day, Heir to the Empire, what are they called? Heir to the Empire, Last Command, and what's the other one?
Dark Force Rising.
Dark Force Rising. Classic Star Wars Expanded Universe trilogy. This was the one that, like, I feel like everybody could kind of get behind back in the day and be like, this is the gold standard of Star Wars writing.
Yeah.
And remains so for a long time. Timothy Zahn came back. It's been a while now, 5 or 6 years. And he wrote a Thrawn trilogy that I think was pretty lackluster. I mean, it sold well, but I don't think I saw a lot of positive reviews, and I certainly don't know anybody who read it and liked it. And this is a second trilogy in the new wave of Thrawn books.
Right. So, yeah. So this is it. Like, if you didn't hit the mark this time, then it's it for Thrawn.
Yeah. All right. So you're reading Thrawn Ascendancy. That's your current.
That's my current droll.
You're not much of a graphic novel guy, right? You don't get it, because I know Hoopla. Steve's library system uses Hoopla. Ours uses Libby, and both have pretty good access to graphic novels. I know a lot of the people in our Discord book club were reading Ms. Marvel because it's all like in our Libby app. But do you do graphic novels in Hoopla?
I can. I just haven't yet because I have it all on my phone, and I have the iPhone 12 mini.
Oh,
so it's really tough. Really
Gorgeous.
tough. I mean, if I had like an iPad, I would.
Yeah.
But I don't. So that makes it difficult.
I've been on a graphic novel kick. I was reading a bunch of, so we're doing these monthly graphic novel book clubs on the library Discord. So if you want to join, you can find us on Twitter at All the Book Show or Facebook David A. Howe. Let us know. We'll send you a link to the Discord because we're doing these monthly things. We did Batman Year One back when the Batman movie came out.
Yeah.
We did Doctor Strange when the Doctor Strange came out, and then this month earlier in July we did Ms. Marvel to coincide with the TV series. Next month we're going to be doing Thor. So because of that, I've been kind of reading along with all of those things. So I read a ton of Ms. Marvel, and now I've read a ton of Thor. Jason Aaron's run, particularly leading up to the whole Jane Foster taking over the mantle of Thor. And I just read the first collection of that. The whole run I haven't really gotten into all that much. The Thor, it's like Thor World Breaker, I want to say is what it's called. And what's cool about it is that you have it's kind of split between modern day Thor, way in the past Thor, and then old dying King Thor. So it's kind of taking a cue, I think, from the Conan book.
Okay.
Because Conan would always do that.
Yep.
And in that run, it was like everything with old, grizzled, dying Thor was super interesting. And the other stuff, not so much. And the problem with the Jane Foster stuff, and I've only read the first run, which is 10 issues, is that they do it, you spend the whole time where Thor doesn't know it's Jane, and you're supposed to not know it's Jane, but it's so obvious who it is.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know that story, it's well, obviously that's Jane Foster. And so to me, there just wasn't a lot of, I don't know. It wasn't that intriguing because if that's the big mystery, we all know what that is. So
figured it out pretty soon. Yeah.
That's let me down a little bit. I did watch Thor Love and Thunder in theaters though. Have you seen it yet?
I have. No, instead of seeing Thor, I saw Maverick. Top Gun Maverick with the
also
wife,
a good choice.
Man, it was so good. Yeah,
I agree. We were talking about this a little bit last week, but yeah, I had a great time with Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah, I grew this mustache right in the theater, literally.
You do have a mustache. Look at you.
Yeah.
Wow. Can you play Great Balls of Fire on an upright piano? You probably could.
I'm more of a Mighty
musical
Wings
genius.
guy.
Okay.
So
okay.
Yeah, Mighty Wings.
All right.
That's my song.
Okay. Well, I loved Top Gun. I thought it was so fun. It was the perfect slice of nostalgia.
It was so good. Yeah.
It was really good. But Thor Love and Thunder, our son was at camp. We had a babysitter at night, and we were like, well, we gotta take advantage of this.
Yeah.
So we went to see Thor Love and Thunder, even though neither my wife nor I were all that into Thor Ragnarok. And we were kind of whatever. I guess we should probably see it. I ended up loving this movie. I just thought the humor was right. The tone was right. I loved the score. I went and bought the soundtrack instantly.
I heard it was entertaining.
Did
a friend of mine just saw it tonight, and he was just like, I love it. So
yeah,
okay.
My brother saw it and he hated it. A lot of the reviews have been negative. So I don't know, but it worked for me. I really thought the tonally the balance was good, and like I said, the humor was there and the soundtrack was great. So I loved it.
Yeah, well, it's Taika Waititi humor, so it's always kind of spot on,
But I felt like it fell a little flat in Thor Ragnarok. Did you like that one, or have you not seen it?
Is that Taika Waititi as well?
Yeah.
Oh, weird. Hey, yeah. I mean, I thought Thor Ragnarok kind of, I don't know. For me, it was a lot of colors and lights and flashy explosions and that, rather than really driving a compelling story. And I don't know, I find that as I get older, I really do, I want that story. You know, you're kind of young, and you are driven by special effects, action, things like that. Now I want a compelling story. And so Thor Ragnarok for me was just after Dark, what was the second one that was kind of, I don't know, it's such a bad rap. That's the Hulk of the Thor movies.
Except I like that one too. I think it's pretty good. I cannot. Dark World.
Dark World. Yes,
Dark World.
Everyone's Dark World. Ugh. And I'm like, really? Did we watch the same movie?
I had a good time with it. It's small scale, it is small scale, but it's fun.
It's small scale, yeah. But I don't know. I thought there was more peril in Dark World than there was in Ragnarok. The Ragnarok was just this is just Thor appearing in his own movie and just being in it, and then the end. It was just there was really never any oh my gosh, suspense. I don't know. I guess
Yeah,
maybe
well,
like
I feel like the comedy got kind of pushed over the
I
top
think
for me in
so.
that one.
Yeah,
And
there wasn't enough
like it,
seriousness. Yeah,
yeah. Anyway, all that to say, I really liked Love and Thunder, and I
good.
also really liked Top Gun Maverick. So
Yes, really like that. I told everyone at work I was just like, you got to go see it.
yeah,
So good.
yeah. I can't believe they made it work either. It was like, no, was anybody asking for a Top Gun sequel? But we
No,
got
and
it.
it's here's the thing. What other two movie installment is better than this? You know, I had people at work that were like, oh, I don't know, The Godfather 1 and 2 is pretty good. And I was just like, yeah, but there's a third one.
Yeah,
Like, and
yeah.
especially
It's
made
true.
30
Duologies are kind of rare, aren't they?
yeah, like 32 years apart, I think, or something like that, or
That's
34. I
insane.
can't remember how many. It's over 30. That's
That's
a long
crazy.
time
It
to then
is.
make a movie that I felt like it was almost better than the first one, but only
Yeah,
because the first one exists, right? Like if this were a standalone movie, it wouldn't be as good because
yeah.
you have
Because
that
it's.
nostalgia,
Mhm.
from the first one, and I just think they did. I think they did a great job of putting in the right amounts of flashbacks and
Yep.
nostalgia, and brought certain scenes. They kind of copied certain scenes, and it worked. And
Yeah.
the one thing that I was just like a little bit on the fence about was Penny in the movie, that like, oh, I'm supposed to just accept that they had a relationship just somewhere in that 30
'Cause
years. Come
because she's
on.
only mentioned in the first movie with
Is
Jennifer
she even
Connelly's character we're talking about. Yeah, yeah.
was she
The
mentioned?
gen She was like the general's daughter that
Oh.
they had a whole thing where I think Goose is kind of teasing him about it, but you don't actually see the
Oh, no
character.
way.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. That I mean, but in the
I
theaters, I
solved
was
your
just
problem for
you
you.
saw
Yeah,
my
there you
problem,
go.
but still, like in the theater, I was just like, okay, like she did really well. She
She
did
did.
really well.
Yeah.
I
It
loved it.
fit.
I loved everything.
Yeah, good. Another great soundtrack too.
Yeah. Oh
I like
man,
that.
so
I
good.
like that. Okay, I'm currently reading two things. One is called
Oh
The
yes.
Forest of Vanishing Stars by Kristin Harmel. It's a World War II historical fiction, and it's about this.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's about this woman who was like taken from her home as a child and was kind of raised in the woods with this hermit, and now she's sort of helping Jewish people as they flee
Oh,
the Nazis.
cool.
And she's got all these survival skills and knows all these things, so she's like helping them survive in the woods. Really interesting. I'm not too far in it. I'm probably 30% of the way through, but I'm really digging that, and we have it
Yeah.
right here at the David A. Howe Public Library.
There you go.
Uh, then I'm reading The Winds of Dune by Kevin J. Anderson and Brian Herbert.
Oh, so like a super duper duper sequel after
Well,
Frank Herbert wrote all his stuff.
yeah,
That's a
yeah. So there's like the original six. So far I've read Dune, classic Dune, and then I read Paul of Dune, which is a Kevin J. Anderson, Brian Herbert one that's kind of set between Dune and Dune Messiah. Then I read Dune Messiah,
oh.
and now I'm reading Winds of Dune, which is set between Dune Messiah and Children of Dune.
Is there really a lot of time between Dune and Dune Messiah to write a whole nother book? Is there really
It
that much? That much?
there is a jump there.
There's
Yeah,
a jump.
there is
I
a pretty
can't
decent
remember.
jump.
Is the jump
Yeah,
shorter between Messiah and Children of Dune? That
I'm
might
not
be what
sure
I'm
because
thinking
I
about.
haven't started Children yet.
Oh, okay. All right.
So,
I
but this is sort of like, well, I don't
yeah.
want to give away what happens
Yeah,
to
don't give away.
at the end of Dune Messiah, but this follows more Jessica and Alia.
Oh,
It's
okay.
kind of like their story, and then there's flashbacks with Paul and Leto and everything. So
Ah,
I
okay.
really liked Paul of Dune as far as like the new kind of spin-off fiction.
Mhm.
This one is not. It's not a slam dunk for me so far. I'm still like in it, but I'm like, all right, let's move it along here. So how far did you just read classic Dune and stop there, or did you read the whole trilogy
No,
or beyond?
I did the Dune Messiah, and Children of Dune. That's
Because you
all I've
haven't
read.
gone like Heretics of Dune or
No, not
because
Heretics yet, no.
Herbert wrote six. He wrote
He
six of
did write
those.
6? Jeez, I didn't even
He
know
did.
6.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yep.
now I gotta add 3 more
You
books.
do. You
Are
do.
they on
Yeah.
audiobook?
I,
Like,
I did
they're
listen to
not.
Dune. I listened to Dune Messiah on audiobook, but
I
I'm
think I
still
probably
reading the
did too.
copies. I think you were there back in college at a little antique store in Arcade. I
Mhm.
bought a little box set of the Dune trilogy,
Oh,
and like
okay.
that's still the one that I have. I'm like, I'm just pulling it off, and I'm like, okay, let's pick up the next one.
I
So
think that's I feel like that's the only ones I remember, and then I keep hearing about like, other ones. And I'm like, oh, he did write okay. So those,
Yeah.
my parents only had the 3. So that's what I was familiar with.
I've heard kooky things about the later one, so I don't know. I mean, at this point, I'll probably just pound through and do at least the Frank Herbert ones. I don't know if I'm going to stick with the Kevin J. Anderson, Brian Herbert ones.
Mm-hmm.
So what that is, if you're not familiar with the series, is, in the 70s and, maybe even earlier, I don't know how far back this book goes, but Frank Herbert wrote the 6 Dune books. And then after his death, Kevin J. Anderson, who's written a lot of Star Wars, wrote some great Star Wars, Jedi Academy trilogy for one, teamed up with Brian Herbert, who is the son of Frank Herbert, and they have written many sequels and spin-offs set within the Dune franchise. Depending on how deep you want to go in Dune, there's a lot of things for you there.
There's
Anything else?
Lore, yeah.
Yeah, there is. Anything else on your watching and or reading list before we move on to book news?
I am in the middle of one of the Witcher books, Time of Contempt. Witcher. I think we talked about this last. We talked about this at one point that I just I don't know if I fell asleep at the wheel or something, but that something happened that I was like, I guess I'm supposed to be surprised about that, and I'm really not. And that's the pivotal point of the book. And now I'm kind of like, when is it done? And I'm halfway through. At least
that's a hard place to be.
Maybe I'm a little bit more than halfway through, I think. And I'm just
It's always a bad time where you reach a spot in the book and I'm already in my head, writing my Goodreads review, and I still have 200 pages to go.
And I'm already looking at what other books are available.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh boy, this is bad.
Yeah. I'm getting there. I'm getting there with Winds of Dune. I needed to pick up the pace a little bit.
Oh no.
All right. Well, let's take a look at some book news then.
Yeah.
Look into the future to see what it proves. It's time for book news.
So this is the New York Times hardcover fiction bestseller list from July 17th, 2022. I'm going to start with number 11 because Steve, as you are the co-host of This Endorian Life for the Radio Meanwhile Network, Star Wars lore should be of interest to you.
Oh, absolutely.
So, number 11 on the New York Times bestseller list, we have Star Wars Shadows of the Sith by Adam Christopher. It's new this week. Nearly 2 decades after the Battle of Endor, Lando Calrissian informs Luke Skywalker of a new Sith menace. I want to read this book. I've been a little burned by Star Wars fictions in the last couple of years, but but this one, it's a new author that I haven't read before, and I just a Luke Lando book is so random.
Lando, yeah, well, that's great because Lando is Han's friend, not Luke's friend.
Yeah, right.
Right, and so I think
it'd be interesting.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, that's number 11.
This is how they bond.
Yeah,
20 years later.
Number 10, 3 weeks on the list, Horse by Geraldine Brooks. The story of a racehorse, an enslaved groom, and an itinerant painter reverberates in 3 different eras. Okay. Number 9, 55 weeks on the list. That's longer than a year. For those of you playing the home game, that's longer than a year. The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. Hannah Hall discovers truths about her missing husband and bonds with his daughter from a previous relationship. This is the epitome of it was fine.
Yeah.
That's my takeaway from the book. It's made to be a Lifetime movie. It's very readable. It's kind of like Where the Crawdads Sing. That was one that was on here for years.
Okay. My sister-in-law was talking about that book. They're making a movie about it or something.
They are. It's just the kind of book where you can pick up and just kind of pound through it. It doesn't ask a lot of you, but it also doesn't give you much. So that is The Last Thing He Told Me. Number 8, 9 weeks on the list, Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. A scientist and single mother living in California in the 1960s becomes a star on a TV cooking show.
Oh, that sounds kind of fun.
I love me some 1960s, yeah.
Yeah.
This one, I feel like I'm derelict in my duty having not read this one yet. But number 7, been on the list for 82 weeks, The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. Nora Seed finds a library beyond the edge of the universe that contains books with multiple possibilities of the lives one could have lived.
80-something weeks?
82 weeks. 82 weeks.
Wow, that's going to be on
the bestseller list.
We're getting close to 2 years.
I know.
That's
Won't
crazy.
Go away. Can't kill it. Number 6, new this week, The Measure by Nikki Ehrlich. People around the world receive a small wooden box telling them the exact number of years they will live.
Ooh.
That's very Twilight Zone.
That's very Twilight Zone-y. Yeah.
Have you been watching Strange New Worlds, Star Trek Strange New Worlds?
I haven't, no.
Okay, that's a big part of that plot. Pike learns about his fate. Captain Pike, the original captain of the Enterprise, prior to
Yep.
Captain Kirk, for those of you who don't know, Pike learns about the fate that we see in the original series, that he's going to, basically be horribly disfigured and taken out of commission. And so he knows when that's coming. So that's sort of like influencing all his decisions. It's a big part of Strange New Worlds.
Because he's just like, I know this is not it.
A little
sir,
bit.
You can be killed.
Yeah.
No, I won't.
I'm pretty sure I won't.
Yeah.
Steve, this is so off topic, but in Strange New Worlds, they cast Captain Kirk for season 2, and he made a cameo in the season 1 finale. It is the worst casting of any character I've ever seen.
Really? Captain Kirk? They made it. There's I guess another captain. I guess right officially.
Yeah. Well, this is showing sort of an alternate, like, what if Pike avoids his fate situation.
Oh, that's what this show is about, really. Oh,
so we see Captain Kirk as the captain of the Farragut, and it's Paul Wesley, who is best known for like the Vampire Diaries, and it is just the dullest, most. You need to go find it. You need to go find a clip. I'll put one on Twitter. I don't understand what they were thinking. It's like if you take all the charisma in the world and suck it through a small hole, whatever you have left is his portrayal of Captain Kirk. Terrible. Breaking my heart. Breaking my heart.
Oh, no.
Number 5, 2 weeks on the list. Escape by James Patterson and David Ellis. The third book in the Billy Harney thriller series. Detective Harney goes after a billionaire crime boss and a prison escape artist.
I know Patterson. I haven't read any books, but I do know that name.
There you go. Yeah. You never read like an Alex Cross, or do you ever see like Kiss the Girls or Along Came a Spider with Morgan Freeman? Okay.
No. Oh wait, Along Came a Spider. Morgan Freeman and what's her name?
Ashley Judd.
Ashley Judd. That's it. Ashley Judd. I think I have seen that. Well,
there you go.
James Patterson.
That's based on the first Alex Cross book. Yeah.
Oh, that's Alex Cross.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Number 4, 2 weeks on the list. The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. An actress escaping bad press goes to a Vermont lake house and uncovers secrets within a neighboring couple's marriage. Ooh, intrigue.
Yeah.
That's fun. Number 3, new this week, Suspects by Danielle Steele. A CIA agent on a covert mission develops a relationship with a woman who is considered fashion royalty and has a tragic past. A lot going on. Number 5, 2 weeks on the list, Sparring Partners, John Grisham. Are you a Grisham fan?
No. Well, no. I know, like John Grisham's like The Firm and Pelican Brief, right?
Yeah.
I've seen the movies. I've not read the books. If the movies are anything like the books, I'm sure I'd love John Grisham.
You probably would. You probably would.
I'm reading Rainbow Six, so that's kind of, I feel like that's in that similar kind of genre.
Yeah. I'll go with that. If you were going to read a Grisham book, I'd probably say try The Firm.
I'll have to do that.
Anyway, Sparring Partners, 5 weeks on the list here. It's a series of novellas. And then finally, number 1, 3 weeks on the list, The Hotel Nantucket by Ellen Hildebrand. The new general manager of a hotel far from its Gilded Age heyday deals with the complicated past of her guests and staff. Maybe if you throw in a ghost, I'll read it, but otherwise, I don't think so.
You know how I judge these by the things I go by. Which one am I going to pull and bring on the plane?
Okay,
right. Because even though like I have a book with me when I fly. Yeah. I always walk in there and I'm like, well, I don't know. Maybe there's something that's like going to pop out that's better than the book I got in my bag, Yeah. And so, because I've done that before. I think there's a couple books that I've purchased and read that's how I did it. I was just at the airport and I was like, it sounds better.
Toss it in.
And I don't know. I feel like the John Grisham one actually is, that's like that, but it's like a book. It's a book of different novellas.
Yeah, Sparring Partners is 3 novellas: Homecoming, Strawberry Moon, and Sparring Partners. And one of them I feel like connects to A Time to Kill. The main character of that is Jake Briggins. And so, if you've ever seen that movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right, that's it for the hardcover fiction list. I think it's time we get to the man of the hour.
Author Spotlight.
Are you ready for some facts about one Clive Cussler?
I am.
He was born July 15th, 1931, died February 24th, 2020. Shortly before Steve sold all of his Clive Cussler books.
No, shortly
I
after.
believe.
Or
Yeah.
before, I can't even remember. It
One
was
of the two.
literally around the time.
Yeah, it was
Either
right
way,
around the time.
it's tragic. It's a tragic story.
It is. I know. We're right now, we're in the midst of it's been a crazy couple of weeks here at the library. A few weeks back, we had the parade, and Texas Hot had their 100th anniversary. Do you remember going to Texas Hot in college?
Yeah.
It was like the late night. Yeah, that's where you could get like a hot dog at 11 p.m. Yeah.
They're having a celebration about what?
100 years.
100 years?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Crazy to me.
We had a crazy parade. We marched in the parade. We pushed book carts. It was great. But it was that, and then just this past weekend was the balloon rally, and so street was full of vendors and just different thing going on, food, stuff to buy. We just started our book sale, and the book sale is still going, by the way. We have way too many books, so everybody, it's a bag sale. So come on, load up on all your books. But while we were sorting it, I found a box, and it was just full of Clive Cussler books, and I thought of you.
Was it my box?
It might have been. It might have been. I'll check it out. Clive Cussler was an Eagle Scout. Was an Eagle Scout in his early days.
Okay.
Reached the rank of sergeant in the Air Force.
Oh wow!
Many books. Author or co-author of over 80 books. There are, as of our time of recording in 2022, 26 Dirk Pitt books.
Yeah.
So he started those. Yeah, alone. Like started those, just writing those by himself. In 2004, his son Dirk Cussler, not Dirk Pitt, Dirk Cussler, became co-author, and they wrote several together. And then after Clive Cussler passed away, Dirk took over the series and has continued it on. So that's the most well-known of the Clive Cussler series, but there are many others. There are the Numa Files, which follows Kurt Austin on an undersea adventures. These are co-written by Paul Kemperkos and later Graham Brown. And Graham Brown is the one who continued the series on solo. There's the Oregon Files, which spun out of a Dirk Pitt novel. Flood Tide introduced the character of Juan Cabrillo, who goes around on a secret high-tech ship and, I don't know, gets into trouble. Have you read any of these?
I haven't read any of those, no.
You haven't read any Oregon Files? Okay, yeah.
Or none of the Oregon, yeah.
These are co-written by Craig Durgo, Jack DeBrule, and Boyd Morrison, and now they're written by Mike Madden solo. What they do now is, when the last came out that Clive Cussler had worked on, they started calling it like Clive Cussler's whatever it is, and then like list the author underneath. So his name's sort of still above the title, but it's like, his series, which I feel like Tom Clancy was really the one that was the most mainstream person to do that. Like when Tom Clancy passed away, they continued the Jack Ryan books. And since then, there's been a lot. I mean, Robert B. Parker, Michael Crichton, a lot. There's a lot. This is happening more and more. But I think Tom Clancy was the one to really like make this thing like a viable option to continue on.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's literally everything Gene Roddenberry touched, right? I mean, anything Gene Roddenberry touches, like Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda. It's like, no, he's been dead. Like, how can it be his? Gene Roddenberry's Earth Final Conflict, or something. I can't remember if that's Gene Roddenberry or not.
I think it is.
I think it was, and it's just like, no, still, again, it's not. I mean, but it is. Yeah. But like,
well, it's become a brand. Like now, Clive Cussler is a brand. You see that on there. Basically the kind of thing you're going to get. We have the Isaac Bell Adventures, which is the one we're going to be talking about primarily today. This follows a detective, Isaac Bell, for the Van Dorn Agency. It's in the early 20th century. Clive Cussler wrote The Chase, which we read solo. And then after that, he wrote them with Justin Scott and Jack DeBrule. And Jack DeBrule is the current author on the series.
Okay.
The last series that's ongoing is the Fargo Adventures, which follows a couple of treasure hunters. Co-written with Grant Blackwood, Thomas Perry, Russell Blake, and eventually the series was taken over by Robin Bursell. He's got several nonfiction titles, including The Sea Hunters, plus 2 children's novels. There's been 2 movie adaptations, Raise the Titanic and Sahara. So there's Clive Cussler in a nutshell, and we basically have all of these at the library. When you're trying to like shelve in the seas, it's like 5 shelves of Cussler. So
yeah, because you got them in like, you probably have them all in hardcover, right?
Most, we do have most in hardcover. Yeah, so it's a hardy shelf. Where did it begin for you? Like, what was the first time you were like, I'm going to read a Clive Cussler book, or was it one of the movies? Maybe
I think it was the Mediterranean Caper, because for so long I thought that was the first one, and then like the internet told me that actually Pacific Vortex is the first one. It was like one of those things where I was like, wait a minute, what? But it was written after, so I was going to read it in the order that they came out, but then that one was actually, like
it
a wild
actually
hair.
wasn't though. That's the crazy thing. Pacific Vortex was meant to be book one. It was written first.
Really? Oh.
Yeah, it was actually written first, I think in the late 60s. And for whatever reason, I would assume they found Mediterranean Caper to be more marketable or whatever. They published that one. So it's not your fault, because for many years, Mediterranean Caper was put out there as book one. But I think in 1980 or so, once he was really cooking, they released Pacific Vortex as like the first lost Dirk Pitt novel. So now when the series are, republished or put out there in order, Pacific Vortex goes back to that number one slot. Is it primarily Dirk Pitt for you?
I like Dirk Pitt. Yeah. Okay. And it's interesting, like I feel like I've read the covers of some of the books, like just at the library when I go through, I'm like, oh, that's a new one. And I feel like Kurt Austin is the closest to who Dirk Pitt is.
Okay.
I think in like description of character, at least.
Okay.
At least what he gets himself into. So I'm curious. That may be who I explore
Where
next.
you go next.
Yeah.
So what was it? Like, it would just look like an exciting book, or like, how did you come across it? Did you know somebody who read it, or just?
My Uncle Harlow used to read them.
Okay.
Well, not uncle, but we all call him Uncle Harlow.
Sure.
But it was my grandfather's sister's husband. So I don't know what that great uncle.
Yeah,
great
that
uncle?
would technically. Yeah, that's like a great uncle through marriage.
Yeah, it's a great uncle. Yeah. So yeah, he was really into Clive Cussler, and so that's how I was just like,
that's fun.
I always had that, like, I can't wait to get old and sit on a leather chair and smoke a cigar and read.
I want that for you. I want that for you.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm already starting.
I know. I could. Well, I
not
can
old.
see the mustache. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's happened. Well.
So you got Mediterranean Caper, and then did you just like pound through a bunch more?
Yeah, pounded through a bunch more, and then I had I don't know, I guess fatigue.
Yeah,
like Clive Cussler fatigue. It got to the point where like the book I read previous was just felt better. You know how you have that, like you get into like you watch a TV shows, right? You start a new TV show and then you're like, I don't know, the last one was so much better and it's done. And I kind of had that, and I just stopped. I just stopped reading Cussler books. That's why I sold them.
It's hard. It's hard when any author is like as prolific as this, because I feel like at a certain point, you've kind of covered all the things that make sense for a Dirk Pitt type character to do. So you almost have to kind of double back and cover ground that you've already covered before. So I think it's hard to keep that rolling. And it could be that, the way he's worked with co-authors over the years, maybe a new co-author comes in and it freshens it up and brings something new. I don't know. But yeah, that makes sense. But after a while, it kind of like, what is it that you like about Dirk Pitt, like as a character? What appeals to you?
I like Dirk Pitt. Actually, it's interesting because I thought a lot about that doing the chase. I like that he is gritty and imperfect. They sort of captured his character in the Sahara movie, but Matthew McConaughey is just too good, I think. Dirk Pitt, he's like cool dude. He's like not the Bond. Matthew
McConaughey played Jake Briggins in the John Grisham movies also. So that's like big 90s literary adaptations.
Did he do True Detective? Is that True Detective?
He also did True Detective, yeah, but that's not based on a book. That's just
okay. You're talking about Lincoln Lawyer? Which one? No,
he did do Lincoln Lawyer. That's right. Lincoln Lawyer is not Grisham though. That's Michael Connelly. So yeah, he did Dirk Pitt in Sahara. He did Jake Briggins in A Time to Kill, and he did
Time to Kill.
He did Mickey Howler in Lincoln Lawyer. That's funny. That's three of like the big names of that
big
genre.
Names. Yeah, I like the Lincoln Lawyer. That was a great movie. It was good.
It was good. I've not seen the show. There's a new show on Netflix that follows that character. Those are great books. We have a whole Michael Connelly spotlight back in the All the Books archive. But yeah, so you like that. So do you think he's sort of, the way you're describing him makes it sound to me a little bit like James Bond as written by Ian Fleming? like the early days of James Bond.
Yeah, he was
book.
gritty, he made mistakes. Yeah. A lot of things were close shaves, like he got hurt a lot. Like, you see in so many things these days where like, nobody ever really gets hurt, like he was everything that like I enjoyed or kind of wanted to enjoy. Like, I really wanted to like Cutty Sark, the Scotch. And I remember finally one day buying it, and I was just like, "This is the worst. This is the worst drink ever." And I was just like, "If there is one thing that we do not have in common, it is our taste in Scotch."
Oh.
But like I don't know, like it was the period too that his stories are. Like the firearms he used, the planes that he flew, the cars that he drove, those were all things that I was like, oh yeah, I want to drive that. Oh, he's flying that plane. No way. Because he's that rough on the edges. You'll probably see him at the bar with that typical cut on his cheekbone, with the little butterfly things and drinking a scotch. That's Dirk Pitt.
Well, Eric and I used to joke about this all the time on the Alta Book Show about the covers of Clive Cussler novels because, like, until we read The Chase, I'd never cracked the spine of one of these books. Not any of them. Not Dirk Pitt, not Isaac Bell, nothing. But again, 20 years in libraries shelving these books, and it's just like every cover more extreme than the last. There's like an island on fire, and somehow there's train tracks through it, and the train is also on fire, and like gold doubloons are flying out of it, while a helicopter is crashing. It's just like more.
It's funny. I find them very compelling.
It's like somebody is just sitting in a room being like, what are all the things that are macho imagery? Let's toss it on. One
of the new ones, one of the new books I saw, because I saw a guy reading it, and I had to, when I was at the library the other day getting Harry Potter for my wife, I was like, I recognize that cover. I'm going to go over to it and find what book that was. And I can't remember what the book was, but the cover of it is like a plane going down into the water, and it has like 8 engines on it. I was just like, this is ridiculous. It's so big. Yeah. It's so big. There's way too many engines. It's just on fire, going in the water. Like, this is perfect.
Yeah, and I found that in The Chase, which we read, the cover of that is a train underwater, which is technically part of the story, but not a big part of the story.
Not a very
minor element of it.
Well,
but
it kind of ruins some aspect of it, right? I mean,
but it's right in the prologue. That was the thing that I found interesting. This is the Goodreads synopsis for Clive Cussler's The Chase, which was our Page Turners book club here in July. April 1950, the rusting hulk of a steam locomotive rises from the deep waters of a Montana lake. Inside is all that remains of 3 men who died 44 years before. But it's not the engine or its grisly contents that interest the people watching nearby. It's what's about to come next. 1906. For 2 years, the western states of America have been suffering an extraordinary crime spree, a string of bank robberies by a single man who cold-bloodedly murders any and all witnesses and then vanishes without a trace. Fed up by the depredations of the butcher bandit, the U.S. government brings in the best man they can find, a tall, lean, no-nonsense detective named Isaac Bell, who's caught thieves and killers coast to coast. But Bell has never had a challenge like this one. From Arizona to Colorado to the streets of San Francisco during its calamitous earthquake and fire, he pursues what is quickly becoming clear to him in the sharpest criminal mind he has ever encountered, and the woman who seems to hold the key to the bandit's identity. Using science, deduction, and a little seduction, right?
Yeah.
And intuition, Bell repeatedly draws near only to grasp at thin air. But at last, he knows his pursuit is having an effect because his quarry is getting angry now and has turned to chase back on him. The hunter has become the hunted, and soon it will take all of Isaac Bell's skills, not merely to prevail, but to survive. That's not really true. That last bit there, the hunter becoming the hunted, that's not really true. But
not at all, actually.
Yeah. That's the basic premise. There's a string of these like robberies going on where every witness is killed, and it's just town to town. And so the cops can't do anything about it. They bring in the Van Dorn agency. They put Isaac Bell on the case, and he like gets right to it. So right away, well, first of all, not at all what I was expecting from the Clive Cussler book that I've been seeing for a long time. And the whole book really could not have been further from what I was expecting in a Clive Cussler.
It's pretty different. It really is, actually.
Is it? I
wonder. The
wondered.
tone was very different. Yep.
I wonder, just as like a fan of Dirk Pitt, coming into this book, how jarring it was for you to see the difference. Because you texted me when we first started, and what you said was it was so weird to have such a concise. This is exactly who Isaac Bell is, and this is exactly what his mission is. Because you were saying that with Dirk Pitt, you're just kind of tossed in. You're just like, boom.
He flies on the seat of his pants. Yeah, he's just like, all right, you know what, we're gonna. I don't know. We're in the middle of the jungle. I don't know. I just walked through for a little bit and I found this helicopter. So we're going to take that and we're going to, that's Dirk Pitt. It's kind of just like, oh, okay. But this.
So did you like it? I'm feeling like maybe you didn't.
I think by the end of the book, when we were getting down to the chase, I think what ruined the book not ruined the book. Okay. What I did not like by the end of the book was the fact that there was a prologue that explained what was going on. I think that works in movies, but this, I was just like, oh, now I know how it's going to end.
Yeah.
And
that was unusual. And I have to assume this to me does not read like the start of a series at all. I feel like he wrote this as a one-off and then they were like, well, let's make some more because not only does it start with a prologue, but the epilogue pretty much says, here's exactly how Isaac Bell's life is going to end. Like, here's where things are going to go. And so it takes away any romance, he's going to live to at least the 1950s. It's just, it's a weird way to start a series. And I feel like cut it out and you're just much better off because nothing in either end, epilogue or prologue, really added to the story for me. So
actually that's how it feels. Like I was just like, oh man, if they didn't have that at all, it would have been fine.
Yeah.
And it was
that would have been better.
You usually have that when there is an epic twist at the very end, right? But it was just like, oh, they pulled the train out and they found money and bodies. Well, we know that.
Right. So I agree. What I did like though was, I probably read more mysteries than I do thrillers or adventure novels. And so the mystery element of it, I thought was actually pretty solid. I thought he handled the mystery well. The steps Isaac takes to figure it out, the serial numbers and figuring out, okay, I was only taking cash, not coins. And all the little pieces that came together, I felt like was pretty well structured for a detective novel. And so I was impressed with that. And I also like that in a way, it still is a techno thriller. It's just the tech is from 1906.
Yep.
So using the using the high speed trains, some of the other little devices that they use. It was cool because it still kind of had that here's cutting edge technology, but it was just
a Colt 45 automatic.
Right. Exactly.
We call that gun a semi-automatic now, but then it was it was automatic,
Yeah.
So
I thought those were good. I felt like the romance, I think that was kind of the weakest part because
it was a little forced.
It was just kind of like, well, this woman loves you 100% and also you love her 100%. And that's just it.
Let's get married. That took me, I was just like, what?
Yeah. And it really, it bogs down the plot. When you
does.
I got to that point and, probably 2/3 of the way in and I was like, okay, I'm ready to be done. I am ready to be done now. And then having to do the whole romance and courtship. I don't know who that was for. And it didn't really work because the character that he falls madly in love with is so one-dimensional. She doesn't really have any personality other than loving him and being
They're not even a side character.
He marries a plot device, not a character.
He marries an NPC. It was supposed to be an NPC, that's what that's So I don't know. It's crazy too because those scenes in the book, he's always asking this woman about the Butcher Bandit.
Right.
And so we're supposed to just think oh, she loves him. Half their dates are him talking about somebody else, not even her. So it's
basically
you would hate
pumping
that
her
person
for information. Yeah, it's not good.
So that bothered me.
So ultimately I felt like it tried to do a little too much. I think the romance in the frame story, cut those out. You have you lose 75 pages or something. and you just have a much tighter book. I really think that would have, I think that would have made it a much better read, and it probably would have compelled me to at least be interested in reading book 2. But with that epilogue and knowing how everything's going to tie up for the character, it just kind of zapped any interest I have in reading a book 2. How did you feel about that?
Well, I liked an aspect of this book because it caused me to take action beyond just reading the book, right? There is actually a historical event that happens in this book that happened in history. And so reading about the experiences that they were going through got me thinking, wait a minute, I think this happened. And I remember the year, and so that got me to like look it up and start looking it up.
You know, I was more impressed by the writing than I thought I was going to be in this book. Like, I thought, you know, I enjoyed him as a writer. I thought the dialogue was pretty good. You know, like we said, especially with the love interests, some of the side characters were a little flat, but I felt like Isaac was well fleshed out. He's kind of the guy who can do anything. You know what I mean? He's just like super capable, and that can get a little old. But I guess what I'm driving at though is that like it didn't turn me off. I don't think I'd read more Isaac Bell, but now I kind of feel like I need to read Dirk Pitt, or I want to read that like Treasure Hunter series.
Yeah,
like because I think there was a lot here to pique my interest.
Yeah.
Did this awaken any interest in you to dive back into the world of Clive Cussler, maybe checking out some of the other series?
Yes, but not Isaac Bell. I didn't really. He wasn't very compelling to me. I don't know. Dirk Pitt is just a really tough one to top, right?
Yeah.
And I thought throughout this book, it bothered me every time. He was like a James Bond rather than Perry Mason. Every time there was an issue that came up or something was, you know, a roadblock, right? He threw money at it. I'll pay you. I'll pay you. And I was every time I'm like, no, that you can't write that convenience like that into the book. Like, I'm sorry, we did this, but just send the bill to Van Dorn. Oh, okay. You know, like, no, it doesn't work like that, you know? So it's just...
I think that having in his background that Isaac Bell is from, basically his family runs like the biggest bank in the country. And so if he wanted to, he could have just gone into the family business and have just been, you know, a rich banker. But he doesn't want to do that. He wants to be a detective. I think having that as part of his makeup, as part of his background, is interesting character development. But you're right that very early on in the book, it becomes a crutch for how do we get out of this jam? Isaac has money.
Yeah.
That did leave me a little cold. I had a lot of comparisons to Stuart Wood's character, Stone Barrington. And even the way like the women were all just like falling over him. There's just sort of like a, you know, let's put this fantasy version of like this perfect, rich, charming, cool guy who can solve mysteries and get all the ladies. It has a feel of like a Stuart Woods kind of book. And in that element of it, I was kind of like, man, okay. That's why I feel like reading something a little bit more like in the more adventure, like just goofy wheelhouse of a Dirk Pitt appeals to me a little bit more, I think.
Yeah.
The Fargo Adventures. I feel like the Fargo Adventures is one that I would like to check out.
It just didn't seem like a Clive Cussler book, except for any time he described a car, a train,
and we did get that. Yeah.
A watch, you know, like these things. I was just like, ooh, you know, like what kind of watch? I wonder what kind of watch Bell has, you know? Like, because that's you read a Dirk Pitt novel, that's what you care about.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me ask you this: if somebody, maybe somebody from the book club who read this book, or somebody who's never read Clive Cussler, where would you point them? Like, what's a good solid book in the series?
I would start with Pacific Vortex. It's a much shorter book. Mediterranean Caper is good. I think the love interests are fun. The villains are compelling. And they're just enjoyable, and they're short. And you know, you could probably finish them in a weekend if you really You know, if you really go at it.
Okay. Well, we got them. So if you're local, you can come check them out here. Otherwise, go to your local library. The Chase was our book club book. We've got lots of other book clubs coming up. August 4th, we're going to be talking about Dune. We're starting our sci-fi book club, so you can come chat with us about Dune. The Discord book club is doing Thor, and the Page Turners, or the Morning Coffee and Cozies book club, is doing Trouble at High Tide by Donald Bain. So lots of book clubs at the library. We're in the midst of the summer reading program. So you can come. It's not too late to sign up. You don't have to. It's just whatever you're already checking out counts. So you can enter to win prizes and gift certificates, and the tablet is the grand prize. Lots of cool things. We're doing free lunches for kids every weekday, 11:30. So just bring your kids down to the library at 11:30. We're passing out free lunches for as long as they last. So it's a busy and fun time to come to the library. Music on the Lawn every Thursday and Tuesdays on the Terrace, where you can eat lunch right here at the library every Tuesday starting July 19th. Busy.
Oh, there you go.
Busy times. Steve, besides your occasional guest starring on House Things, where can people find you on a regular basis for podcasts?
You can find me every other Tuesday on This Endorian Life, a Star Wars podcast from the Radio Meanwhile Network.
So natural. It just flowed right out of you. It's not even written. It's not even written down right in front of you. So
I know, and I need that. I need it to be written down if I'm going to say it.
I know you do.
You know me.
Well, it's always fun to talk to you. Thanks for joining me on this episode.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. This is great.
All right, I'm going to go read some Clive Cussler. We'll see you next time, everybody.
See you later.